All right, everyone, welcome back into another Fantasy Golf video. Going to be breaking down the Travelers Championship here for you guys, giving you guys all the final details that you need to know. As always, if you have any questions, make sure to get those in. Obviously, we're coming in off of a pretty good week last week. Hopefully, we continue that for this week as well. For the most part, just going to be going over strategy, kind of lineup builder, outright bets, placement bets as well. Going to be talking about some props, though, as well. And I think that would be a good starting point for today's video is just kind of just going over the general props that we have. But I do want to start with taking a peek at the weather and just kind of all the nuanced stuff here for the Travelers Championship. So just start with that. And so looking at the course stats, conditions wise, we don't really have to worry about the weather too much this week. There was a little bit of rain in the forecast. On Friday could rain. Thankfully speaking, though, it doesn't seem like we're going to have any thunderstorms. Okay. There's the slight issue of potentially having thunderstorms in the forecast. And obviously, we don't like dealing with delays. That can create a little bit of random variance. And so we don't have to deal with that, which I think is kind of huge. And so we go ahead now and then jump into the prize picks coverage for this video. Let's start with underdog. So right now, guys, underdog, the best bet that we have in my eyes is going to be looking at Jason Day for over his fairways hit. The reason I'm able to determine this is just looking at it in terms of the prize picks line. The prize picks line is set at 9.5. And so the fact that the underdog line is at 8.5, that tells us that, well, chances are the line should be set at 9. So that is a huge edge. We have seen this time and time again with prize picks props and underdog props for golf. That can be our biggest edge, and that is going to be our biggest edge thus far. So I think that's something we should take advantage of. I will say earlier, and I'm refreshing this right now, but earlier on in the day, this is the prize picks view here, which kind of breaks down everything here. So like the average fairways hit about 10.6. Okay, so I would argue that the prize picks line here was more correct. Now they did do a little bit of difference, setting up the course a little bit different this year than previous years, but I don't think we need to worry about that too much. Anyways, my point is Tommy Fleetwood, his underdog line was at 9, and they clearly thought that was wrong, so they took that off the board. Just be on the lookout to see what his line comes out to be once they update that, because typically they will. And so they did that, I don't know, like 20 minutes ago. And so I'm guessing it's going to get to 9.5. That would still be a very good middle for us there. So that'd be something I think we should run out if that opportunity presents itself. And so that'd be something I think we should do. Other than that, we can kind of just sort it by edge then as well right now. I don't actually really agree with this. I don't really want to be touching this prop bet for Scotty for under his birdie or better at 5. There's no need to do that. Now, we look at last year's average. It was about 3.79 birdies or better. And we would all expect that Scotty Scheffler, he's going to have a better day in general or a better tournament in general. So props-wise, I don't think we need to be touching this. It doesn't seem like a smart idea to be messing around with Scotty at all, especially coming in off of a tournament where he only made 4 birdies. Chances are he's going to have a very good day and week this week, kind of regress back to his normal mean. And we just jump back into the underdog side of it. Again, not much. The best prop that we had, was probably looking at Sam Burns to get under his fantasy score, which I know is that's something a lot of people aren't going to want to hear that. But Sam Burns for under his fantasy score to me is the best one. If this course does play a little bit more difficult, then that'd be something that I wouldn't mind to run out. I do want to see, do I have average fantasy points? So about the average fantasy points scored is about 27 fantasy points per round. And this is using underdog scoring. And so we go back into this sheet. Yeah, it's going to be tough to see Sam Burns getting that. So a bet of the day that I could run out here would be Sam Burns for under his fantasy score on underdog. That seems like a pretty strong bet. Then we could also be running out Jason Day for over his fairways hit of 8.5 on underdog. Again, always want to be taking advantage of those middling opportunities that we have. And so that kind of concludes the props for, between prize picks and underdog. Again, no need to force anything too much. So let's go ahead and jump into that round 1 showdown coverage. So again, weather-wise, we don't have to worry about much. weather-wise, we are looking pretty good there, which is huge. It's nice to not have to worry about that. And so we kind of look at it. I don't think we have to really do early tee times at all or late tee times. This is a no-cut event. This is a signature event as well. We're not going to have to worry about the tee times. Now, if you want to skew towards the early, you could. And that's an option that I don't mind. But again, I don't think we need to do that. If you were going to do that, go to round 1 and just do Showdown rank for round 1. Scotty would be 1, then Hideki, then Keegan. It's actually kind of crazy. The golfers with the later tee times, I guess it makes sense. More prime time coverage, I guess, are going to have the later tee times. So again, I don't think we need to do that for this. And I don't think there's really that much that we need to do round 1 Showdown wise. It's kind of clear and simple what we should be doing there. And so if we're looking at, potentially running out some round 1 builds, there's just not that much to it. We're just going to be going really based off of what the data says. But the issue with this week in general is that we have a lot of good fair and balanced builds that we can run out. And I still think that's going to be the case with round 1 Showdown. Now, for first round leader betting, it's going to be kind of more the same there, where sort of by first round lead and toss in the rank there as well. And I mentioned this on yesterday's video. There's no reason to get cute with it, pretty much. We're going to be running out Xander 16-1. We're going to be running out Scotty 11-1. Corey Connors 33-1. That's probably the best value. If you guys are someone that bets on Bovada or Bet365, a little bit of a better edge there. You can get him at 35-1. Those are some pretty good odds. Hideki at 30-1 on those sites as well is pretty good, but you can get him at 28-1, which is nice. Morikawa, Tommy Fleetwood, and then O'Bear. Those are the 7 bets that we're going to run out for first round lead. Again, over the past 2 months, it's either been that we've hit a first round leader or they've been runner up. Seemed like we're going to have, Patrick Cantlay having the first round lead and really just playing well at the US Open last week was a little bit of a shocker, but that's one that I can stomach. What was it? A few weeks ago, it was like Adam Hadwin, which still was like a little bit, that sucks. David Skins is what I'm thinking of. Those are the ones that hurt when it's completely random. But that's kind of my long way of saying, if you guys want to run placement bets out with these on something like BetMGM where they pay out the ties, do that. That's honestly probably the best piece of advice I can give you guys when doing round by round betting. Now you're typically getting shorter odds there because they typically do pay out ties, but that can be worthwhile by doing it that way. For instance, Rory tying for the first round lead yesterday or last week chopped his first round lead line down to 11-1. So that can make a big difference, right? And so again, kind of just more straightforward here. So let's jump on into the outright bets. And so outright wise, I don't know, to me, this week is kind of simple in terms of which outright bets we should be going with. The question, it seems like every week, is what to do with Scotty. If you guys want to bet him 4-1, you could do that on BetMGM. I would be perfectly fine with that. It's not a terrible bet. Some people would probably try to talk you out of it. The thing is, he is probably due to have a much, much better week this week than last week. Last week, he couldn't make a putt. He couldn't make a birdie. He's still able to manage to make the cut. Still finished 43rd. Like, not terrible. Just not what you would want from him. So I don't really want to bet on him. At the same time, I'm only betting on 4 other players. And so I could still hedge with Scotty. Like, the chances are Scotty is going to win. I still really love the idea, though, of betting Xander 7.5-1. Not as good of odds as the start of the week, but he's the number 1 player in the 9-to-5 mile this week. He's a former winner here. Finished top 20 in the previous weeks. Data-wise, top 4 better in all the key stats that we're looking at this week. That is spectacular. You really can't beat that. Xander really didn't have his A game. I don't even know if he had his B game last week, and he shot top 10 in the field. I like it. The weirdest thing that's been happening with Xander, like, Bryson's getting all this love, Scotty's getting all this love, and all Xander does is continue to play great, phenomenal golf. 50 straight made cuts after this week, multiple top 10 finishes. The worst data point that we have coming in on him this week is a 23rd place finish 5 starts ago, and I believe that was a team event with Patrick Cantlay, without looking that up. And it's just amazing that that he's not getting love because he has been so good and almost underappreciated how well he's been playing. Not only the past few months, but the past 2 years, and it's been nice to take advantage of him DFS wise and betting wise. Again, betting in first round lead. I think outright wise though, 7.5 to 1 to get the best play this week. That's kind of crazy. And why is he the best play? I call this out on the videos, but the most important data point that we have each and every week is always looking at the golfer's last start that they had. And so Scotty Scheffler finishing 41st last week, it's no shock that someone like Xander who finished 7th, the slight tiebreaker is going to favor then Xander this week. Again, that's because the most important data point every single week is the golfer's last start that they made. Now, yes, like you don't want to overvalue that too much. There's checks and balances that goes into the data and whatnot, but you don't want too small of a sample size. So that's why you don't load up on that too much. But that's why someone like Xander is slightly beating out Scotty. And for what's worth, Scotty, course history wise, 4th, 13th, 47th, and missed cut. That's much worse than Xander. Now, we look at Scotty's career. We definitely know we can ignore those starts from 3 and 4 years ago, especially COVID year. Doesn't really matter. So still, Scotty and Xander, they're basically the exact same. I would say, yeah, Scotty probably does have a little bit more win equity, but that's also why we are getting Xander an ideal option at 7.5 to 1. So, those are the two kind of, yes, obvious ones. I think everyone would know that. But I would still say 7.5 to 1 feels pretty good for Xander. After that, to me, it's going to be Aubert at 14 to 1, just solid odds for him. I could make the case for Colin Morikawa at 12 to 1. He's someone that because of Rory withdrawing, I kind of decided not to bet on. That could be a mistake. That's someone I could bet on. I'm kind of toying around with that idea. If Morikawa wins, or even if it has a good week, that's going to be a bet where I'm going to look back on it and be like, that was a mistake. If you guys were watching last week's video, I was talking about Rory a bunch, and I basically said, the reason I don't want to be on Rory is because he's going to choke if he gets in contention, which is what happened. I didn't think it would happen the way that it did. I just didn't see Rory clutching up, but I did end up putting a bet out there with Rory. And I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts are on that? When you have, obviously last week, Cash Bryson, but would you much rather be following someone that just has a great betting card every single week, or someone that just has a terrible betting card but gets a random good outright winner? I always find that interesting. It's like I'm not like dogging on anyone because they did what their task was to do, but it's always funny to see like a terrible outright card that has like 4 miscuts, maybe 1 top 10, and then a victory. Like, that's always funny to me. It's like, that's not really, like, we really shouldn't be celebrating that. So always weird to be there. But that's kind of my long way of saying, if you guys wanted to include Colin Morikawa this week, even though for some reason he struggled at this course, and that's where I might see him maybe not winning. Like, I do expect him to be in contention, but we're trying to find those fine little details that maybe we don't bet him to win because just this kind of struggle at this track. Now, he's kind of an ideal play otherwise. 4th in recent form, 7th best staff fit, 5th best specialist. Like, really does look like a good play. But if we're betting on him, might as well bet on Aubert, who is a better play this week, better stat fit, has played this course successfully. And the biggest thing about Aubert is that the fact that, typically speaking, he doesn't have course history, right? He has been someone that has been playing on all these tracks that he's never really played on too much, or at least on the PGA Tour, and been playing extremely well. Now we get him on a track where he did play well in his first start here, 27th. So he does have that experience here, and it's like I'm really expecting Aubert to win this week. He's kind of like my I'm toying around with using him in one and done because I do think everything's coming together for him to win this week. 4th best specialist, had the good start here last year, 8th best staff, or 8th best in recent form, 4th best staff fit. We can get him at some pretty good odds. Like, that to me is pretty appealing. 14 to 1 in this field feels pretty darn good. Yeah, it's strange. This is one of those strange things. Like, if you look at, so DFS Chef is saying that Morikawa, for whatever reason, has struggled on this track. Basically, he, like, on paper, he should be great. Like, same thing, like Patrick Cantlay. It makes sense why he's been pretty good at this track. I guess you could say the flip side for Patrick Cantlay in U.S. Opens, like, inexplicably, he hasn't been able to produce good results on U.S. Opens, and we saw that flip last week. And so that could easily flip for Colin Morikawa as well. So it's one of those just tough spots where it's like, if you're on him, I wouldn't blame you. Again, that's kind of my FOMO bet, I guess, if you will, that I'm toying around with there with Colin Morikawa to go with him or not. That's my biggest conundrum this week. And then, so we'll get into some more outright bets here. So for me, Aubert, Xander, those are two easy ones. And then I would argue that even at their numbers that we are still getting, like Russell Henley, 33-1 is a really, really strong bet this week as well, because he is just looking like a stellar option this week. Really just coming in, checking all the boxes. He is someone that at 33-1 on FanDuel, like that's almost tough for me to ignore, just because that's almost too good of odds for him, like especially compared to everyone else. Now, again, you guys already know by now, hopefully, my model is always favoring both safety and upside. And so I'll pull up Russell Henley here for you guys. He is fifth in the model this week, which might be shocking to some people, but at the same time, I was trying to do these rankings for like how I would rank the top 5 in the world, and that's pretty simple to me. Like it's, I think the order that I did was Scotty, Xander, Rory, Bryson, and then Colin Morikawa. Aubert would probably be 6. You could make an argument that Russell Henley is 7 for just how well he's been playing, and I don't think that would be too much of a hot take. But that's kind of irrelevant for this week. Kind of. I mean, he's 6th best in recent form still. He's 11th best staff. It has tremendous course history here. 3 straight made cuts, all with an average finish about 25th or so, which is pretty good. Obviously, we need him to pop a little bit more, but you think about some of the former winners like Harris English. This kind of feels like Harris English as a play when Harris English won. And so I don't want to miss out on this. Given the odds that we are getting for him, it feels like a pretty good number bet. And then lastly, it's going to be the exact same thing with Corey Connors, basically the exact same play. You can bet 40-1 on, was it Bovada? Again, if you bet on Bovada, that's where you'd want to bet on him. Not saying you have to, but we're still getting pretty good odds elsewhere. 33-1 FanDuel. FanDuel is someone that does keep giving us some pretty good numbers just in general each week. So I would take advantage of that if you can. But those two plays, they're kind of the exact same, honestly. Both, you would argue, are due for a win with how well they've been playing. Now, Corey Connors maybe getting a little bit skewed 9 to 5 data wise, just because he's made 24 straight made cuts. And again, my data very much values predictability. And obviously, if you're looking at predictability, you're looking at made cuts. And again, obviously, made cut doesn't matter this week given the nature of the event, but it still kind of tells us how well a golfer's been playing. He's been playing great. Course history wise, top 10 last year, miscut the year prior. So, or that was the COVID year, but in his prior start here. So I was like, what do we do with that? I'm kind of okay just kind of ignoring the miscut, honestly, because that is 4 years ago. And then other than that, top 10 staff hit, 7th best recent form, 7th best specialist. I mean, just coming in as a strong play on paper this week. The question everyone would have is like, do those two players have the mental fortitude to win this week? And I would say coming in off of 2 big events that I'm almost like the Memorial and their US Open, where the bigger names probably put a little bit more stress on themselves to produce in those 2 tournaments. I wouldn't be shocked if someone like Corey Connors or like Russell Henley were to win this week. And they're just too good of plays on paper to pass up on, especially at those numbers. So other than that, you could make a case for a lot of other plays that you could potentially be on. Outright wise, I don't see the point in really stretching it out more. Like we have 4 really good bets. If you want to include Scott in there, you could. Could Hovland get hot, find his swing again like he did 3 events ago? He could. Could Patrick Cantlay continue his great course history? Did he find something in his swing? Sure. That could all be there, right? Brian Harman has tremendous course history here, relatively speaking. 1 miscut and then a bunch of really good finishes. Like Tony Finau, really good play on paper. Could he finally find it? Yes, but those are all guesses. Those are all educated guesses. Whereas the outright bets, really, the past few weeks and this week, they're kind of just ones that I don't want to say you need to make. Never want to tell people to do that, but those are the ones that stick out the most as good outright bets, if that makes sense. This is interesting. Um, you know what? This is a funny question here. So let me see if I can pull up a screenshot. This is a props question here. I did run out some protected plays for prize picks. And actually, since you asked, I'll try to find what I ran out. Give me a second here. Um, I'm just gonna name it off here. All right. Are you ready? So just real quickly, this is a props question. Envoy for less. This is a COD. This is a COD prop. Envoy for less than 6.5. Map 2 kills. That was the best one on the board today. And then some League of Legends ones. Canyon for under 5.5. Maps 1 and 2 kills. Leave for less than 9 kills on maps 1 and 2. And then Hina less than 7 map 1 and 2 kills. So that was it's a protected pick on prize picks, guys. And I should kind of just mention that, like, if you guys are betting on prize picks, I already did the prize picks section there. You guys have probably seen the stinger for underdog or first time depositors. You can use that, but underdog has been doing a lot of protected plays. There's actually 2 out there today, one esports, one if you played on Taco Tuesday yesterday, both available for you guys. And I just want to echo this real quick for anyone that's watching for props content, or kind of both. Please be taking advantage of the discounts that are out there. It's crazy. Like, you can make money without really risking that much money of your own right now. It's insane. And I think that's just because there's not NFL going on right now. So, like, sleeper, underdog, and prize picks, they're just running out a bunch of promotions to try to get people to bet. And if you only use those, it's really not a bad idea. They're just trying to give you guys free bets. And so take advantage of those if you can. But again, I'm not trying to encourage anything. If that's not your style, don't feel the need to go out of your way to do that. But if you're already someone that does that, take advantage of it. All right, so we're going to jump into some ownership talk. And I will say, these are interesting ownerships. And again, I pull in ownerships from multiple different sources, and I can say for the signature events, and it's going to be true for this week as well, it's been all over the place. And so I've seen Scotty 45 in some spots, and I've seen him like 22, and I'm confused as to how that's occurring. But that just seems to be a thing that's going on with these signature events. Ownership wise, though, I don't really see anything like really actionable, which is a little bit unfortunate. But that kind of is what it is this week. I don't think we need to go crazy with anything. Scotty's properly owned at 37%. Again, I fully expect him to bounce back. I wouldn't say anyone's overowned. I would say that all makes sense. Probably SunJam a little bit overowned at that price tag. He was a hit or miss option last week. I kind of mentioned, the difference between Seb Straka was the only difference was pricing. And so it just made more sense to go with Seb Straka. And obviously that worked out. I'd say I was more lucky than talent there, but if someone's the exact same play, why pay $1,000 more for SunJam? So that's why it was weird to see Sanjay at that high of ownership. Leverage wise, I would say, Corey Connors probably should be 20%, but again, it makes sense. This is a week where we should be doing studs and duds. Like, that is what we need to be doing. And it's very difficult this week. I mentioned this a decent amount, is that it's kind of soft pricing in the mid tier this week. And I think that was done on purpose so that it's not so simple as to just, all right, we're doing Scotty, we're doing Xander, and then whichever values we can fit in there, great. That's been the profitable strategy, whereas it might not work this week. You could go Obear. A lot of people are on Kyle Morikawa. You could go both of those two, maybe another player in the mid tier, and be set up good to go. And so I don't really care about ownership this week. Let's put it that way. I do think Xander's going to probably come in a little bit lower, though, than he's projected, just with how much love I've seen Kyle Morikawa and Patrick Cantlay get, for that matter. And so, again, I'm probably getting way more Xander than the field for like the 4th straight week. And I think that's correct. But if you told me Obear or Morikawa, one, I wouldn't be too shocked. Heck, if you told me Hideki wins, I wouldn't be too shocked. But, there's just not that much there for actionable information ownership-wise this week. And so with that, let's jump into kind of the lineup builder. And I think that's actually a good potential segue into one lineup construction that I am doing this week. So I'm using the 9 to 5 custom model here. I'm showing you guys this as an example. I will be doing studs and duds. That is at least a third of my lines are going to be studs and duds. Really putting an emphasis on doing studs and duds. And you can do this manually with the lineup optimizer if you guys wanted to. But what I did was I clicked on that, studs and duds, exported this, and then I went ahead and I uploaded this. So you upload the data, you select that file that you just download, upload it, and then you would click save. So I had already done that because I wanted to run 50 builds out and I didn't want to take too much time during the live stream to have the data load and whatnot. Again, when I go live, that eats up a lot of, is it CPU? I'm not the biggest tech guy. Anyways, it tends not to work as well when I have both things going on at once. But looking at it, I will say probably too much Austin Eckler, probably a little bit too much Tom Hoagie, definitely too much Lucas Glover. Some of the plays that I want to be on, I mentioned this, are Andrew Putnam. You got Lee Hodges, Kirk Kitayama, and then Adam Svensson. Those are all plays I want to be on, maybe a little bit more. And I actually don't mind Brennan Todd as like a punt option. And so the thing I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to up their projections. And then also like someone like Scotty Scheffler, who I'm not getting that much in this run or maybe at all. I do want to up his projection. I still got 20% Scotty. That's fine. Whatever. We'll do 128 for him. Adam Svensson, I'm going to bump up to about 106. Kind of telling the date I want him a decent amount. Then 20% Eckroat, maybe 20% Lucas Glover. Again, because we're doing the studs and duds, it's naturally going to pull in those plays. So you don't want to change it too much. And then let's see here. Svensson I updated. Kitayama. Oh, that's why. We'll do 25 for Kitayama. Pavon, yeah, 8%, that's fine. I'm going to bump Todd's up to 100, but only 15% for him. And then Andrew Putnam. Let's bump up his a decent amount. I do want 30% of him. I think Andrew Putnam's going to outproduce his price tag. I feel pretty good about that. But I also think he's going to finish in the top 30% of the field. This is going to be one of the better courses for him in a while. So I do want some exposure to him. And then Lee Hodges, let's go with like 25. So while that is loading, I will jump back into some questions here. I believe we had some. That's awesome. Love to hear this and love to see that comment. Yeah, the promos. Yeah, love that. Honestly, yeah. So if you're in college or if you're just someone that just likes betting and not having to stress about it, the promos have been huge this summer. And again, I think that just naturally comes with WNBA not being a little bit more unpredictable, and then MLB being more hit or miss. Like either you're really having a good day MLB wise, or maybe not. And that's just a trend that happens in the summer. Whereas NBA wise, you can get massive edges by following injuries. NFL, I mean, the NFL is pretty easy just because if you watch it, and there's a lot of public action that comes in that influences lines. I shouldn't say easy. I never want to make statements like that, but there is an edge there with NFL. Whereas MLB, it's a little bit hit or miss. But that run is done, so let's go ahead and check it out. And so I would say much, much better here. Maybe don't need 30% of Tom Hoagie, but again, this is only 50 builds. So then when I run out my next kind of batch, I probably would make an emphasis to not have as much exposure to someone like Andrew Putnam. But I mean, that's still not bad. So like the top studs and dudsy build that this sees is actually Xander, Cantlay, Finau, which is interesting. And I wonder, I do want to try to set one rule. I want at least two of, let's try this. Scotty, Obear, Morikawa. Xander. Oh, he's already in there. Scotty. I do still want to get Henley and Connors in there as well. So it's probably going to just default to getting more Connors and Henley in there. But let's see. I'm going to run this one more time just to see what that spits out. Again, if you guys have any questions, get those in. Going over 30 minutes a little bit here, so that didn't work. Let's see. Probably don't need this. If I'm doing a rule like that, don't need to do this. Just still probably do 30%. Let's do 40. That should work. But after this run, I'll be getting out of here. So yeah, a little bit better. Still probably don't need that much Tom Hoagie. That's something I'll adjust here. But it did do a better job of giving me two of those top end guys, like Obear, Colin Morikawa. I kind of figured that'd be the top lineup there. And I'm actually curious, could we make it work where I'm going to take off the max exposure? I'm actually going to try to change this to 3 just to see if it would work. I don't think it will. But if it does, that could be interesting. It did work. Not bad. I actually don't mind these. Probably a little bit too much Xander. Would probably have to cap Xander a little bit and Morikawa. Again, we're doing 50 lineups here, so I got 100 more to go, so it doesn't really matter. But that's fascinating. I don't mind that combination then. Because then you're just getting 3 studs in there and mixing 3 duds in there. Again, really you're hoping that those sub 7K plays just finish outproduce their price tag. And then that should obviously help out pretty well. Let's see here. I wouldn't do this just yet. I'm actually waiting until we get some better. I'm hoping. So we got a question about underdog props. So with this one, I'm actually hoping that we get some better ones, and I'm really hoping that we get some big discrepancies between prize picks and underdog golf wise, so that we can just middle. And so I'm kind of hoping that happens tomorrow, so I can do kind of or not. Is it tomorrow? No, sorry, Friday, 2 days from now, so that we can run out a Flex Friday slip, and then also use the free square because that. Oh wait, okay, never mind. Apologies. I thought you were talking about the free squares that we had. I just saw that we're getting some discounts. Huh. I don't know. I'd have to look. Hopefully it doesn't matter. Let's see. How much time do we have left? I'll try to do that real quick. I did not see that they added that though. So yeah, I'll try it real quick here. So Wilson, Lloyd. So Wilson's original line was 27, slightly favoring the under there. I mean, that's not terrible though. Lloyd's original line was 20.5, but the data was favoring the over. So I would go with Lloyd right now as it sits. The other two, Collier and Howard. Collier's original line was at 21.5, but favoring the under. So no. So Lloyd so far, it's Lloyd. The answer is Lloyd for that underdog free square. I'll pull it up here as well. So yeah, guys, I mean, perfect there. And honestly, could run out Jason Day over Fairways Hit if you want. Again, that's at 8.5. Probably should be at 9 because the PrizePicks line is at 9.5. Errors Fairways Hit is about 10.5 as well. So decent edge there. And I actually don't mind that. So yes, Lloyd is going to be the best one there because at 20.5, they'd already like the over. Hodges, Fenson, or Power? That's a good question. So for me, I don't mind Power. Not someone I'm going out of my way to play, but I kind of get why someone would. For me, let's just default to the model here. It's going to be a little bit more of Lee Hodges, and that's probably just because more recently he's shown some upside, but I don't know if there's a wrong answer there. I would say Hodges a little bit more for upside, Svensson a little bit more for safety. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, Power is someone that I do think could kind of randomly pop here, which he has done thus far this season. I'm just not really counting on it. All right, so yes, we are up against it, guys. Again, typically want this to be 30 minutes, but I'm always happy to answer questions. And so we'll be here next week on Wednesday as well. Don't know if it'll be a morning or afternoon live stream, but appreciate you guys being here. Good luck this week with all your bets and with all your picks. That's going to be all for today's video. Good luck. And as always, keep cashing.